Okay, so here I am doing my final reflection over my Capstone experience. This is Agapi, by the way. Um, so, starting out, my reflection questions that I want to answer um, are numbers, let's see here. Number 11, identify a safety issue, real or potential, and how you would address it. And then describe a communication process which was challenging for you and what you will do differently next time, number 6. So I will start with number 11, and a safety issue that I found was one that related to recovery post-epidural. So for the patients who receive an epidural, they are required to stay in recovery for approximately 2 hours. It takes most patients about 2 hours to recovery and kind of get their legs back, as we say. And so during that time, they are working on trying to move their toes and legs as much as they can to get them to wake up as the epidural medication wears off. And then once they're able to pull their feet up and put them flat on the bed with their knees up, that's kind of their ticket out of recovery. That's one of the ways we gauge it. That's how anesthesia gauges it as well. So one of the things that I noticed, and this was after a lived experience of getting up, I went in to check on a patient, and the patient had gotten up out of bed without notifying nursing staff, and without being cleared, given the okay to move, to get up and walk about, prior to us knowing about it. So same thing that I just said there. And one of the things that, although it seems maybe silly, I don't think it would be a bad idea to, what am I trying to say? To put a bed alarm on for patients who are recovering from an epidural. Some might think that's excessive, but in all reality, they are a fall risk, and that is a liability. And when you have a patient who is very, shall we say, independent and independently minded, that can be a real issue, especially at this particular moment when I walked in. I was absolutely stunned to see the patient standing there. She had actually already gotten dressed. We had not helped her to do her peri-care yet, which is, an important point to do, and, that helps the women post-recovery, as well as just transitioning her into, walking through, dangling her legs, standing up with some support, and then finally walking on her own 2 feet. So that's one thing that I noticed that I would address, just by simply putting a bed alarm of some sort. Let's see, and then the other one was number 6, describe a communication process which was challenging for you and what you will do differently next time. So I have to admit, this was a case of a patient who was, forgive me, I'm forgetting the politically correct terminology. There were some intellection issues with the patient, and she was the one who was pregnant, and she had a baby, but her mom, due to the cognitive issues, the cognitive issues that were going on, her mom was there and pretty much communicated with us. The patient was able to communicate, but she looked to the mom for everything. And so the communication issue was not being able to directly communicate with the patient, but having this kind of proxy in the room that was always referred to and deferred to. That was a real challenge for me because I felt like the mother kept imposing what she thought this birthing experience should be for the daughter. And now, interestingly, this was not the daughter's first child, this was her third. So she's, been around the block insofar as she knows, this is not her first time, having a child, so she knows kind of what's going on. But because of the cognitive issues, I think her mom felt a responsibility that I presume she's probably felt her entire life to speak on behalf of her daughter and to advocate for her. And I don't discredit that. I think there's a time and a place for that, but I felt like it was somewhat out of place in many senses, because also the other challenge to this was she was giving the daughter really poor advice and was making medical comments that she shouldn't have been making based on her level of knowledge as she was expressing it in the comments. So yeah, that was definitely challenging. Next time, I think I would just request more alone time with the patient. I think that would be one way. Sorry if you hear my dog whimpering in the background. Are you trying to say hi, Jack? Sorry for our messy house here. Hi, Jack. Now stay down there, buddy. So that's one thing that I would do, is just try and find situations where, it's appropriate to provide care in private without the presence of family members, and to be able to directly talk with the patient and get the feel of where the patient is at and what the patient is really wanting. So it's just something that came to mind. Okay, so now that we got through those two questions, let's see. My goals for my previous reflection videos. So some of them I met, some of them I did not. Some of them I did not have the chance to address. And a lot of them, like working on skills and patient positioning and very basics of labor and delivery nursing, I do feel so much more comfortable finding a baby on a monitor, positioning a mother, much better doing IVs and drawing labs and doing Foleys. However, I am a little disappointed. Some of the things that I wish I would have had more opportunity to do was actually doing infant, baby assessments, as well as more OR experience. Unfortunately, my particular preceptor really hates those two things, which sounds really funny. She loves the babies, but she hates being the baby nurse. I think, or as they say on the floor, the baby catcher, because of the liability, to be honest. That was certainly my impression from what she shared with me. And then, as far as the OR experience, she doesn't like doing OR. And I think also because the charge nurses knew she had a Capstone student, we would often get the inductions or other vaginal deliveries, as opposed to those that were assigned for cesareans. So I wish I would have gotten more skill and experience, because I do think that's a critical component of learning the labor nursing role, is to understand what's going on and what you need to do and be responsible for in the OR. We did get some good triage experience. I do wish I could have gotten more and could have been a little more independent in that, but there are just so many things, so many variables I found to account for as nurses who are learning labor and delivery, because you have, kind of your average normal deliveries, you have cesareans, you have triage. So it's kind of the equivalent of, emergency room, operating room, and a normal nursing floor in some ways. So, yeah, there's just so much to learn. So much. But I feel good about coming out of Capstone and what I learned, and definitely cemented that that's what I want to do long term. Yeah, so there is that. And then, so it's looking back on your Capstone, how have you been a heroic leader? So self-awareness, so addressing the 4 pillars that Lowney presents in his book, Heroic Leadership. I think self-awareness, I've definitely come to find out, I knew what my strengths and weaknesses were, and just kind of more solidifying those, and really just looking at more of what would be a good fit for me, and having that self-awareness to say, yes, I do think this would be a good fit for me. And likewise to say, okay, I definitely know what would not be a good fit for me. And I did find that I really enjoy the education piece more than I anticipated liking it. I've always known that I enjoy teaching and sharing knowledge with others, but particularly in this environment, I really loved it. Ingenuity. Let's see here. Ingenuity. Just a second here. Let me see what else is said over here. Yeah, so for ingenuity, I kind of feel like in some ways, I can't really say that I've been innovative in that sort of way, but I think sometimes it doesn't take massive changes to be ingenuitive, and little things, little observations that a fresh set of eyes can bring to a situation, like the bed alarm, the safety risk that is there. Now, while most patients are compliant with instructions, not all are. So I think that the bed alarm is a good illustration of something that could be done. Love, engaging others with a positive, loving attitude. I can definitely say that from my Capstone preceptor, and although it's not Capstone, but from my adult health 2 clinical instructor, some of the kindest, what's the phrase I'm looking for? Words of encouragement and appreciation for what I bring to nursing had to do with how I engage with others and kind of my bedside manner, if you will. And I just say that as a matter of statement, not to toot my own horn, but I really do think that comes from a deeper place within myself, as I think it does for most nurses who are really great with patients, and who really exhibit behaviors and actions and forethought that really does stem for deep and honest and genuine care and love for other people. And so I would like to think that I have that, and that I'm continuing, to try to develop and build that in my own life. Yeah. It's a very interesting pillar, and I think it's a pillar that needs to be stronger in so many people's lives, and my own included. But how much different the world would be if we all had this combination of factors, right? Enough self-awareness to reflect, ingenuity to offer something to the world, the love to support it and to sustain it, and then heroism, energizing yourself and others through heroic ambitions. So I don't know that I energized anyone, I'll be very honest with you, but I know that the feedback I received from the unit from my preceptors that they enjoyed working with me. They thought, quote unquote, I was one of the best. And I think sometimes, I was excited to be part of what was going on there. I was excited to be able to help and assist and pitch in and be part of the team, which early on I did not feel, but at the end I finally started feeling like I really was part of the team and people trusted me more. So in some ways I kind of wish Capstone would have been longer so I would have had more of that. But it's nice to be needed, and it's nice to know that you're trusted and to know that you have a skill and something to offer the world, with your patients and your team members. So I think as far as ambitions go, they know my desire is to pursue women's services, OB, and I really think it's a really great fit for me. And although I don't have a job secured in that area right now, I really do hope and even pray that it will become available to me in the next year or so. So, yeah, I think that's about all I have now. I've rambled on for 16 and a half minutes, so I apologize. Thanks for making it to the end here. But yeah, thank you for your visits and for getting to know Jenny and I a little bit. And yeah, I hope that the end of your pathophysiology semester goes well. So look forward to seeing you at pinning. Thanks so much, Margaret. Bye-bye.